Well, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me and letting me ask you, talk about you and your life and your work and having this conversation. So why don't we start with just a little like intro? You can tell us, your boilerplate. Who are you? Um, where have we heard your name? All that kind of jazz. And then I've got a handful of, questions just to start us off, and it'll go where it goes, but we'll do something like that.
Sure, yes. I am Donja R. Love. I am a writer. I am HIV and AIDS advocate and activist, abolitionist, community builder, and a lot of the work I create, whether for the stage or beyond, is rooted in holding space for my community, specifically my community of individuals who exist on the intersection of Black, queer, and living with HIV, right? Like, how can I create work, whether art or advocacy, that holds space for us and that gets to show us in the fullness in which we exist that we seldom get to see. So that's a little about me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is one of my personal favorite things about your work. Is that you are speaking to a huge community that doesn't often have their voices presented on stages in this country as often as they should, and you are doing fantastic work in bridging that gap. And I think it's really awesome, and I'm thrilled and honored and grateful to get to direct your work in Chicago and bring your words and your images and your stories to this awesome theater city, and this theater in particular, Northlight, this particular go around. So um, yeah. And I realized I didn't introduce myself. I was just like, tell me about you. And I didn't tell anyone who I am.
People
I,
know. Let them know who you be.
right. I'm Michael Burke. Hi, all. I use he, him pronouns. I am the director of Fireflies here at Northlight. And that's what we got. So you already started down this rabbit hole in your response to my first thought, but I'm wondering if you could tell us. I know that Fireflies is a part of a trilogy of plays, and I've had the great pleasure of now working on two of the three plays here in
Yes.
Chicago. Um,
Word.
yeah, the first being Sugar in Our Wounds, and then this one, Fireflies. And I'd love if you could talk to us a little bit about the trilogy at large, and then even more specifically about Fireflies, but the impulse or inspiration for that. What was the where did it come from? Where did it originate from? What made you want to tell these stories in this way?
Absolutely. And so the impulse stemmed from something that you mentioned earlier, which is uh, certain stories not being reflected, right? And individuals not seeing themselves represented or seldom seeing themselves represented. And I was just really interested in uh, me and my queer ass was interested in queerness, as I always am, and specifically queerness throughout history, right? And so, what was queerness, specifically Black queerness, like during the time of enslavement? What was it like during the time of the civil rights movement? And what is queerness, Black queerness, like now, specifically during like the Black Lives Matter movement? Because one thing I know for sure is our Black gay asses didn't just pop up into the scene. Insert date here, right? We've always existed, but systems and forces made it so that we weren't able to be our full selves, right? Where history has done everything it could to erase us. And I wanted to use my work to kind of shift that narrative. And so I started with Sugar in Our Wounds, a play that takes place during the time of enslavement. And we follow two enslaved, not really men, boys, uh, teenagers who meet and they fall in love. And what does that mean during that time, right? Like, how can you exist? How can you hold on to love during this time, right? Where you don't even have agency over yourself, right? And so I was really interested in that. And I just thought Sugar in Our Wounds would be it. And then the spirit, the great I am, said, oh, no, 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 no. This is a larger conversation. And I thought I was going to write the second play in the trilogy, but I ended up writing the third play in the trilogy, which is a play called In the Middle, which ironically enough is called In the Middle, and it was the second play I wrote. And it holds space, and it's a conversation around queerness during the Black Lives Matter movement. How do we navigate and have a conversation around police brutality as it relates to Black queer men, Black queer individuals. So that was the second play. And then I started to write the second play, finally, in the trilogy, Fireflies, that you're directing. And out of the 3 plays, that was the hardest to write. Fireflies was the hardest to write. One, because it's a two-hander, and two-handers are no joke. And then on top of it being a two-hander, I was blessed enough to have conversations with my grandmom and my great-grandma, Black women who existed during the time that our 2 characters, Olivia and Charles, exist within the world of the play. And I had these conversations with these 2 women in my life before writing the play. So when I sat down to write it, all I could think about were these 2 women. And it got to a point where I had to tell myself, Danye, you love my mom, you love Nana, stop thinking about them right now. This is not their play. Think about Olivia, think about Charles. And when I was finally able to actually sit with that, I was able to like really write and to allow the characters to like talk and then think about the things that my grandmom and great grandmom said, to be able to really help add nuance and specificity to the time period. So that's kind of how the trilogy, which is called The Love Plays, came to be.
Yeah, fantastic. That's really exciting stuff. I think it's so interesting that you say you had initial difficulty with writing Fireflies, because one of my favorite moments in our rehearsal process so far was when our actor Chanel Bell, who's playing Olivia, she told me like the first time she read the play that she just wept and was so moved, and then she realized that you were not a woman yourself, but you had written the shit out of this this woman, this role for this woman, and you know, she's like, I can always tell when like somebody that's not a woman tries to write a woman. It always just feels wrong. And she was just so grateful to you for the care that you took in crafting Olivia's journey in this story. So
that
just,
means a lot.
Fantastic stuff.
A lot. The Fireflies is also a love letter to Black women. I know so many people say like, this is a love letter, this is a love letter, but the play is actually crafted in a way where it is a literal letter, right? So it's a love letter for Black women. And that was another reason what made writing this play difficult, because Sugar in Our Wounds, the first play in the trilogy, and in the middle, the final play in the trilogy, they look at queerness through a male-centered lens, and Fireflies looks at it through a different lens, right? And so I really wanted to do as much as I possibly could as a man to really show respect and to get the fullness as much as I possibly could in Black women and Black women's journey, specifically during that time period. So to hear you say that means a lot. That means the world to me.
Absolutely. And we are just so appreciative and grateful that you've done it, because we have the great pleasure of getting to play, you know, and live through this and share this with this community. So it's so thrilling.
Firefly, no joke. Lord have mercy, it's no joke. So I can only imagine the work that y'all have done and still are doing.
We have a 2-show day today.
Woo! God
I'm
bless
watching you that 2-show day, and I'm like, woo, y'all, that is
bless.
Running a marathon.
It is nonstop.
Oh, it's so good though.
Olivia.
So for This question is like me personally. I'm just really intrigued and interested. But like, um, Fireflies is a super rich play that's touching on so many aspects of queer, Black, and female experience in 1963. Um, and so I would just wonder, like, in your journey as writer creator of the story, and the words and imagery that you use to tell this story, and I can't wait for people to see the richness that I'm describing. But I wonder, like, what's your like you, Donja Human, what's your favorite part about that play or aspect of the play that like every time you get to see a production of it, or that you get excited, like, oh, how are they going to do this, or what are they going to do with this, um or like, I don't know, or what surprises you when you see different productions. um
Oh, that is such a good question because there are so many parts I love. Of course, the writer would say, it's so much I love about my work. Um, there truly are so many moments. What I I think what comes to mind, if I can cheat and if I can
yeah.
say two things, one is the surreal element of the piece. I'm really interested, and I love seeing how that is translated in each production, right? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? What is a production's entry point into the surreal within the world of the play? So I think that is the top. And then the second, for me, it's is actually scene three. Uh, and so I went back, like looking at the a play again. Scene five is a very intense scene. Scene three also has levels of intensity, but in it's a smaller way, right? Where these characters are more reserved. So I love seeing how that is like translated, right? Like, what does that
Mm.
look like? How it's things that want to be said, but it's not, and like, how do we still feel that energy? So I would say the surreal element is something that I always look forward to, and then the subtle intensity in scene three really is something that I kind of look forward to see
Mm.
how we're going to navigate that space. Yeah.
Totally. Ooh, that's good. That's good. um yeah, that's fun.
You. How about you?
Yeah.
I'm really interested. Like, I know you're asking me questions, but I'm really interested in like the director, if I can. Like,
Yeah.
what was it like for you? And like, what are moments where like you were like,
Hmm.
we're cooking with hot grease here.
Totally. Ooh, it's so interesting. I think scene three has always been my favorite scene because it is like I just love the scope of scene three. Like, we cover so much ground in seeing the relationship between these two people and who they are, who they've been to each other, who they are to each other now, and where they're headed in just in that one that one morning. And so that was a fun scene to get to dig in and sculpt. But I think my favorite piece to work on as a director is probably it's a toss up for me between scene five and scene six. um I love five because it's the longest scene in the play, the longest sustained scene. And so like getting to watch it unfold in real time and all the twists and turns and events that happen in that scene, it's like, man, that is a blast to get to flesh out and watch them do it every night. And then six is just, it's a beautiful sort of exploration of who these people, what these people mean to each other, and the how deeply ingrained in one another's lives and histories they are,
Yeah.
while what's unfolding is unfolding. And it's a really it's a rewarding scene in that, like, even though they're not, we get so much of their history inside of that scene. And it was, those two scenes are for, for me and how we've thought about and created this world. It was the juxtaposition between those two scenes that really unlocked how we wanted to create the world of this story between these two people. And then, like, full transparency, I just am also really, really in love with how we've created the surreal element in our play. I don't want to give it all away for the people that haven't seen it yet, but it's really cool. I think I'm excited with what we cooked up, and it's so good. It's so moving. It's beautiful and lovely, and haunting at times. It's great. So yeah, it's been just really, it's been really rewarding to get to live and breathe through this and unlock it and unpack it and ground it, and it's been great, and such beautiful language to get to chew on. So
I love that. That's so beautiful. I'm excited.
With Fireflies, I think that Olivia's journey is incredibly profound through this play, in terms of where she begins versus where she ends, and what she experiences in between. In between, and I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, like, what do you hope that audiences really step away from this play with? What do you hope that they are carrying with them as they go back out into the world? Because I'm a firm believer that the work is not done when the play is done, that there's more going on here. So I just wonder what your thoughts are.
Right, yeah. And so that question is always so interesting to me, because I understand that we will bring our full selves to whatever it is, right? Which is to say, we all have an amalgamation of experiences. So when someone sees the show, they bring all of their experiences, and that really creates what they see and shapes what they see, and that helps them or fosters what they walk away with, right? So I 100% acknowledge that element, which is completely up to this individualized chance for each person. With that being said, what I would hope that folks walk away with is choosing themselves, right? Even in what seems to be the most difficult of circumstances and situations, right? You can still choose yourself. Even when other individuals are involved in whatever the situation is, you can still choose yourself, right? And so for me, I hope that with watching Fireflies and going on this journey with these two characters, specifically with Olivia, the individuals walk away with saying, I can choose me. It's not selfish to choose me. I acknowledge other parties involved, and I want to hold space for other parties involved, right? But at the same time, I am choosing me, and that actually is okay. So I hope people walk away with that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's a great reminder at any time, but especially these last couple years, like, we all can take a good reminder that, like, it is okay to choose ourselves, not take, not stand for the stuff anymore. So that's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's necessary, right? For our well-being, because we experience someone who is in such a place of distress, right? And we see what that does to an individual's mental health, right? And navigating that, and what does it look like to say, I am going to choose all of me, right? My health, my well-being, my experiences, I am going to choose me, because this is the healthiest option for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel that deeply. Yeah. Okay, I got one more for you.
Work it out.
And again, this is just like me being excited, but like, what's on the horizon for you? What's cooking? What are you excited about that's coming down the pipe, or that is, you know, happening right now beyond the world of Fireflies, um, for the Playwright Donja R love?
Work. Well, I would just say I am so humbled and honored that Northlight is producing Fireflies, right? So like that for me is something that's very big, because I'm just remembering the Danye who was writing the play and who couldn't even see the play being produced outside of my wants and like desires. So to be talking to a director who is in Chicago working on the piece is so beautiful. So I want to hold space for that first and foremost. And in terms of what's next, I've taken such a necessary pivot in terms of the work that I create, as I talked about earlier, um, really more than ever rooting itself not just in Black queerness, but Black queerness for people living with HIV. So that looks like not just the work that I write, but the work that I create, i.e., I started a playwrights program and prize for people living with HIV. So other writers can exist within the industry, right? I don't want to be the only one. I'm actually not the only one. I don't want to be the only one who is public and open. I want to create spaces for other people who are living with HIV to be able to create work to show the fullness of ourselves, right? I want to, if I can, give resources and access to other folks to be able to tell our stories as well, right? So that is what I'm really looking forward to, telling more stories. There's other works I have for the stage and for the screen that hold space for people living with HIV, specifically Black people living with HIV, because seldom do we get to see our stories told. Is always from another narrative. So those are the things I'm really excited for, to be able to showcase more of Black people living with HIV on the stage and on the screen coming soon. So that's where I'm at. That's what I'm really looking forward to
Absolutely.
center us and hold more space for Black people living with HIV.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I'm thrilled to hear that you've got multiple irons in the fire. You're firing on all pistons. It's great. We love it. We love
And
to see
sometimes,
it.
like, Lord have mercy, how is it all going to happen? But it's happening. I just got to remember to breathe, but it's happening.
Mm-hmm. And I hope that this isn't embarrassing, but you inspired me greatly a few weeks ago, where you posted your away message that you had up for most of January, and just in the spirit of like, I'm choosing me, and you know, the rest of you all will be fine. I just it was just so great to see, like, yeah, you can do that. What are they going to do?
Absolutely.
You put you and your health first, and you know, the world kept on turning. I was just like, oh, that is, yes, I'm gonna
Because
do that.
you're right. People will be fine. People
Mhm.
absolutely will be fine. And it's a line in my away message that like people responded to the most, and they like said this one line sent me, and the line was, and I meant it with so much truth, was, if your need is urgent, I pray you figure it out. Don't come to me with that. I will pray you figure it out, because 9 out of 10 you will. You
Mhm.
absolutely will. So, and you said it best. People will be all right.
Mhm. Yeah. So that just, I appreciated that. I felt that, and just a great reminder to choose. We can all choose ourselves at any time.
That
You
part.
just got to be brave enough to do it.
That absolute part. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. I think that that's all the questions that I had for you. Anything else coming up for you? Anything you want to, last minute things you want to say to the crowd before we disappear?
What are some last minute things I want to say? I literally think I said it all. What is truly coming to mind is like choosing yourself. Like that, for me, that will be the takeaway from this, is just us being able to choose ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Specifically folks who historically were never afforded that option. How radical, how beautiful is it to choose yourself, right?
Yeah.
And not feel bad about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that I would want to end on. When we think about Fireflies, when we think about Olivia and her journey, being able to choose yourself and being and letting that sit well with your soul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is a great note to end on.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little time with me
It
this
was a
morning.
pleasure. I was so looking forward to this. I'm glad we were able to do
Absolutely.
it. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for holding space.
Totally, totally, totally. And we'll do it again sometime because
Word.
I have a hunch. If I know me well enough and I know you well enough, this probably isn't the last time that we will be collaborating on
Oh,
a play.
baby, no, not at all. Not at all. Okay. Okay. The
Absolutely.
universe is conspiring. The
It really
universe
is.
is conspiring, and I'm just happy to be on the journey. So let's
Yeah,
get it.
totally.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and we will talk soon. And
Bye.
Northlight peeps, have a good rest of your afternoon.